welcome everyone to the Healthy School Food Summit, brought to you by the Coalition for Healthy School Food and PlantPure. I'm your co-host, Ron Gandiza, and my co-host is Amie Hamlin, Executive Director of the Coalition for Healthy School Food. Amie has been the Executive Director of the Coalition for Healthy School Food since its founding in 2004. Previously, she was the director of a nonprofit environmental organization and director of a tobacco control program to ban smoking in public places. In her current position, she wrote a New York State legislative resolution for healthy plant-based entrees and nutrition education in schools, which passed unanimously in 2004. The coalition has developed recipes which have been distributed to 25,000 schools nationwide, a middle school family and consumer sciences cooking curriculum, a 3rd through 5th grade curriculum called Food UnEarthed, uncovering the truth about food, and nutrition education resources, including the Wellness Wake-Up Call and Feel Good food cards. In her role with the Coalition for Healthy School Food, she consults with healthy schools to help them get started on a path to healthy change using Coalition for Healthy School Food recipes, curriculum, and resources. Amie has a master's degree and a certificate in plant-based nutrition through E-Cornell. Welcome, Amie.
Welcome.
Now, we both have goals here for the Healthy School Food Summit, the first ever to be done, talking about getting plant-based meals into schools, getting more nutritious recipes into schools, and really exciting kids and teachers too, and parents about this whole opportunity to see the benefits of eating a healthy diet. So tell me, what are your goals? What are the goals of the Coalition for Healthy School Food in this summit?
Well, first I want to welcome everyone to the summit. We are very excited to be doing this first ever summit. And a special thank you to you, Ron, and to PlantPure Nation for co-hosting. We're very, very excited about it. It's time to open up the discussion about plant-based options in schools. Now, obviously, schools offer fruits and vegetables and whole grains, although that is being scaled back a little bit for some schools. But we know that these plant-based options already exist in schools. But what is called the meat alternate option, the main dish, or what some people call the protein, is usually based on meat or cheese. And our focus in this issue that we want to talk about is replacing that with beans and lentils and healthy plant-based options that meet the requirements for the meat alternate.
Well, definitely a big topic of discussion nowadays. And as you know, PlantPure has been involved in the plant-based movement for quite some time with the PlantPure Nation film that people watched with Nelson Campbell and Dr. Campbell. And this Healthy School Food Summit, as you mentioned, this discussion, open dialogue is very important. So I'm hoping we can motivate and inspire people by sharing stories of how schools have been able to implement successful programs and how they did it, why they did it, and really to inspire them, even parents, to take this idea to school and start the conversation just like we're doing now. So thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you.
Now, what's your story? I want to understand how you, Amie Hamlin, got into nutrition and helping schools, because you've been doing so much with the coalition, but it had to be a spark. What was that spark for you?
There was a spark, and the story is a very sad story. But my mom used to be the director of a local SPCA. And one day I witnessed, and this is back before the days of the great marketing campaigns to adopt animals and the great spay-neuter campaigns. I witnessed animals being euthanized. That's a nice way of saying being killed. I witnessed this, and it impacted me deeply. I saw it as unnecessary suffering, and it caused me to adopt a vegetarian diet. I did that for 10 years, and then I learned about where eggs and dairy came from and how really it's the same thing, only worse. And so then I gave up eggs and dairy, and so I became a vegan. And then I started learning about other aspects, nutrition, and the environment. And I thought these three things together, health, environment, and animal suffering, were all very, very powerful reasons for adopting a plant-based diet. And I think about the suffering involved with all of them. So when we look at the health problems that are happening in this country to children and adults, something 80% of health problems are caused by diet, and so much suffering is avoidable if we would only eat healthy. And so schools are the place that children go to learn, and they should learn about nutrition. Learning about nutrition is a life skill. All children should be taught about it. And then our tax dollars, of course, pay for the school meals. Our tax dollars should not be supporting unhealthy foods. It should be supporting healthy foods. And so schools do serve some healthy foods, and then there's lots of room for improvement. But there's a food industry involved, there's politics involved, and so it is really important to base the nutrition on science rather than politics or the food industry's desires, because it really is hurting our children. This is not to blame food service directors. They work very, very hard. They are just following the rules they are given. But it's time to open the discussion and look at the meat alternate category and how this category of the school meal is so important because it has a huge impact on children's health now and in the future. So we want to prevent suffering. We want to help the environment. We'd like to see less animal suffering as well. These are all really important reasons.
Now, explain a little more about the work that the coalition does.
Okay. Well, first, we want to improve children's health. And there's a few statistics. One is that 50% of children between the ages of 2 and 15 already have fatty streaks in their arteries. And this is literally early stage heart disease. And there are children as young as 8 years old on cholesterol and blood pressure lowering medications. These medications have very negative side effects, and there is absolutely no reason why children should be taking these medications when their diet could completely remove their need for those medications. Also, diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is increasing. It's used to be called adult onset, but now children in elementary and middle school have it. So as young as elementary and middle school, and 1/3 of all teens right now in this country will end up with type 2 diabetes if something doesn't change. But when you look at African American and Latino teens, between 40 and 53% will end up with type 2 diabetes if something doesn't change. This is a tragedy. It's preventable. And the only way that we're going to start to change this is by teaching children from a young age about healthy nutrition, not just children. We work to educate the whole school community. So we educate the parents, the teachers, the administrators, and the food service personnel. And so the health issue, and also I want to say cancer too. Cancer, a large percentage of cancer is caused by diet. Not all. 33%, for example, is caused by tobacco. But not all cancers can be prevented. And not everybody following a plant-based diet is immune from diet-related diseases. But statistically, those who follow a healthy plant-based diet have a much lower rate of the diet-related diseases. And so our goal is to change how schools feed kids and to have healthy options, have all options be healthy options, and that the norm is children eating healthy, not only in school, but out of school, and to change the trajectory of diet-related diseases, which are almost completely preventable.
Amie, I know the coalition, there's a lot of partnerships in the community to make things work together. So can you fill us in on what you've got going on right now?
Yes. First of all, we will help any school or school district, but we do have 3 formal partnerships. One is with a small rural school district in upstate New York. Another one is with the Ithaca City School District in upstate New York. And then finally, our largest partnership is with the New York City Office of School Food, which is the largest school food service operation in the country. And our work with the New York City schools, and well, all of the schools, is very exciting, but I specifically would like to talk for a minute about New York City. In New York City, we started doing vegan pilots back in 2008, and we have been in a formal partnership with them ever since. So in 2008, we did a vegan pilot program in one school in Harlem, and then we continued developing recipes and working together to get more vegan options on the menu. So we have right now in New York City, there are approximately, and have been for at least a year, if not longer, approximately 100 schools that have a vegan option every day. And so that is something that's really great. And our effort is to always increase the number of schools, increase the vegan menu options, and all schools are required by federal law to have what is called a local wellness policy. And New York City's local wellness policy says that they will offer and promote the inclusion of plant-based entrees. And so that's what our partnership is about. We help them do that. We actually work with them on their menus. So their standard menu that most schools have vegan options twice a week. Their alternative menu, which is in approximately 100 schools, I believe, they have vegan options every day. And then we actually helped 2 schools in New York City adopt vegetarian menus. So their menus are strictly vegetarian with vegan options available every day. And there is a waiting list of other schools wanting to adopt the vegetarian menu. And we are working with those schools to make that happen. And I think over time, we will see more and more schools adopting vegetarian menus. And when I say vegetarian menus, schools must offer milk. Students don't have to take it. There's a lot of misconceptions about that. Milk must be offered. It does not need to be taken. However, it must be offered. So right now, at this point in time, it would take an act of Congress, literally, to change the fact that milk must be offered. So right now, public schools would not be able to have a vegan menu. However, they could theoretically have all vegan food. Like, there's no requirement that cheese or meat be served. There is a requirement about what counts as a protein, and the whole other subject is that protein is in all whole plant foods. We don't really need to worry about protein that much, but in relation to school foods, we do, because there's this category called meat alternate, which is in the My Plate. That would be the protein component. And so there has to be certain standards for the foods that meet the requirements for the meat and meat alternate category, which is it has to be a half a cup of beans or a half a cup of lentils or split peas or 4.4 ounces of tofu. And there are other foods that can count as well. There's something called CN labeling, which is labeling from the USDA. The CN stands for Child Nutrition, and it's specifically for foods for this meat alternate category, so that if it's not obvious, like a half a cup of beans or 4.4 ounces of tofu, say it's falafels, and we'll be hearing from the company American Bean Products, who makes falafels. They get a CN label, and then the food service director knows this counts as the protein. So there are many ways that the plant-based protein can be offered, but they do have to meet certain requirements. So these vegetarian schools are the first public non-charter schools in the country to adopt vegetarian menus, and we are very excited about that. And it's always our goal to maximize the number of vegan entrees on the menu, and we are working with New York City schools to do that. And the school communities where we do this are very accepting of the menu. I think most parents realize that there's a health crisis. I mean, 7 out of 10 adults are overweight or obese, and those other health statistics I talked about before, parents don't want that for their kids, and they understand these menus are healthier. And so we've got a waiting list of schools who want to adopt this vegetarian menu. We work with the school district to get more vegan options on that menu. And there are probably about 100 schools right now in New York City who have the vegan option daily. And so we're working to increase the number of schools that do that. We're also working to increase the number of vegan options that exist. So not all schools cook their own food, and that's why we're going to be talking to some food manufacturers as well, because the food industry is an important part of making this work. And so we're very excited about this. And we do our work in partnership not only with the school districts, but we also develop recipes for schools that do make their own food. So in Ithaca, for example, we are the first farm-to-school program in the country that features local organic plant-based proteins, i.e. beans, that grow locally. And we do that in partnership with the Ithaca City School District's Child Nutrition Program, and Moosewood Restaurant, and Simeon's on the Commons, another restaurant, and then the Youth Farm Project that actually grows some of the food for our recipes. And so that's a really exciting, very successful program.
How do we get vegan entrees? Putting them in the schools is one thing, but how do we get them to actually eat them?
Yes, well, we have to educate. So just putting them on the menu and not saying anything is not the way to do it. First of all, you can talk about health, but a lot of kids don't really get that their health matters, or they don't really think about when they're adults or when they're older. So health is not always, we should teach it, but it's not always the most impactful message for children. But teaching about the environment and animals is one way to get kids more interested. So, for example, children are taught to recycle and turn off the lights and use less water, but raising animals for food has a huge impact on global warming. There's no sense in arguing over numbers. Some studies say 18% of all greenhouse gases are from animal agriculture. Other studies say 51%. So whether it's 1/5 or half, it doesn't really matter. It's a huge impact. And so some studies suggest that replacing one hamburger one time is the equivalent of saving 3 months worth of water from showers. And so that's really big. So you could do all those other things combined, and it's not as powerful as replacing one hamburger with one veggie burger. So I think teaching kids about the environment is one way to get them interested. And animals are another. It used to be sort of, we weren't supposed to talk about animals, and we weren't supposed to talk about animal suffering. And if you wanted to do that in a school, people weren't going to be too happy about it. But now it's very accepted. In fact, there's a law in New York State, for example, that children must learn about humane education. And one of our speakers in this summit is from Humane Education Advocates Reaching Teachers, Kim Corona, and it'll be great to hear from her. But we teach children to be kind to animals. But there's a disconnect in our society about the animals raised for food. There's a big wall, and we don't think about it, and we don't talk about it. But the animals raised for food, they have nervous systems. They experience pain and pleasure, and they suffer just as our dogs and cats do. And so reducing, or better yet, eliminating animal products from our diet is not only beneficial to our health and to the environment, but it's also very beneficial to the animals. And so letting kids know about these things, that's a helpful way to get them to accept these plant-based entrees. But there are other ways too. So I'll talk now about some of the other ways that the actual ways that we do it in the cafeteria. So for one thing, our recipes come from different cultures. And so it's an opportunity to learn about different cultures by having these recipes. And we were very inspired by Antonia Dimas, who's going to be one of our speakers. who wrote the curriculum, Food is Elementary, an absolutely amazing curriculum that we highly recommend. And that, too, teaches about different cultures. So learning about different cultures is a very exciting way to introduce plant-based entrees. Showing kids what ingredients are in the food. So if you can have an experience where they get to see the raw ingredients in the food, they get to see them, touch them, smell them, then that's another way to do it. And what we have found the most powerful way to increase consumption of the entrees is to have a taste testing in the lunch line right before children go through the lunch line and choose what they're having for lunch. So that's powerful. But if you do that, the food has to taste really good. So our recipes taste great if they're made as instructed, but if they're not made correctly, they might not taste good. So it's very important to never ever do a taste testing if the food doesn't turn out delicious. Everybody works their hardest to make it taste good, but if it doesn't come out good, don't do that taste testing because it will not work. So let them taste it in the line, and we've found that that dramatically increases consumption. Another thing is, what is the message we give the kids when they're in the lunch line? Say that you have hamburgers or awesome bean burgers, and a whole bunch of the lunches are pre-plated. So say there's 10 hamburgers pre-plated and 2 awesome bean burgers pre-plated. What message does that give the kids going through the line? It says, we expect that you want the hamburger, not the awesome bean burger. So it is very important to not just put out a couple. Make it clear that this is what is one of the options, and at least do it half and half, not just a couple, because if there's a lot of hamburgers and very few bean burgers, there's a message that goes along with that. We don't expect you to take that. We don't expect very many people to take this. But if the kids have had taste testing events, so not just taste testing in the lines, but you can also do taste testing events. We did at one rural school in upstate New York, where all the kids came to the cafeteria and they rotated around to different tables. We had slideshows of images from the culture, all the raw ingredients, and and music, and a food tasting. So that too was a very powerful way. And then when they're on the lunch line, let them taste it to remind them how good it is.
You've got a lot of these best practices you've learned working with the schools, and I'd like to learn a bit more and explain to the audience what you've been able to do with the coalition in terms of that New York State legislative action, because it's something that I know other states want to do. And New York, has done this. You did this back in 2004. So explain,
that's right.
How did that go down?
Well, I was lucky in that my previous job as the director of an environmental organization meant that I worked with a lot of elected officials. So I knew the elected officials. I knew who to reach out to. And it was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, the fact is we wrote a resolution. A resolution it's not a law. It's a recommendation. But at least in New York State, it's voted on as if it's a law. So it includes these sections, whereas, and lays out facts after the whereas, and then be it resolved, and that's the changes that you want to see. So we did this, and then decided after we did this and after it passed that now we needed to start a nonprofit organization to implement the recommendations of the resolution. So we would love to help other people in other states do this, and we can definitely work with people who want to learn how to do that. But it's a recommendation, and so it's not a law, it's not a mandate, and therefore passing the resolution is good because it's educational, but then it takes a lot of work afterwards. So we've been doing that work now for 13 years.
So what was the core of the resolution, if you could just, as far as...
It was that plant-based options would be included on a daily basis as a healthy option, and that where nutrition education occurred, education about healthy vegan and multicultural diets would also be included. But that doesn't mean it happens. We have to make that happen.
But
the New York State legislature said, this is a good idea. And so they're backing the idea. But actually implementing takes people and feet on the ground.
we really look forward to getting that same message and motivation for people, out there, getting people motivated, inspired to take the same action you took. And this is amazing because this is back in 2004. And, we've seen the plant-based movement expand quickly, even in the past 4 years alone. A lot of that due to social media, people being able to share more information quickly and with a click, really easy and quick. If you can do that and get that information out there, people can share those videos with just a click, sharing stories about the environment or animals or nutrition. It's very powerful. So I'm really excited about this summit in bringing people from all those different areas together, these great experts that have volunteered their time to join us. And I'm looking forward to getting back with you for a couple of these interviews together to really come down with some clear action items, steps that people can take and do themselves, or at a minimum share with others. So I'm really excited because the Coalition for Healthy School Food, which has been on the radar for PlantPure for quite some time, as you know, I got excited and joined your organization to support your efforts. And it's really something that together, I think we can do a lot, not just us, PlantPure and the Coalition, but together with other schools and parents, getting parents involved and the community. There's so many, and we'll talk about this throughout the summit, there's so many other parts of a community that can support these efforts. And schools, as I mentioned, are such an integral part of a community. And we all want to have our kids. Now, how many kids do you have, Amie?
How many children do I have? One child.
One child. And I keep thinking of your bird. We heard your bird in the background as another child. So
I have a dog child too, but I don't want to leave out my dear stepson. I do have a stepson who I raised for part of his life. He's a grown up now with his own 2 children.
I know we come off as sometimes very intense. That this passion is because we know what's at stake if we don't do this. So
we want a better world for our children. We truly do, and it's not just words. It's the actions we take that will make it that way, and the impact of animal agriculture on their health, their planet, and the other sentient beings on this planet is very important to address for them to have a better future, a future that is healthier, with a healthy planet, and more peaceful.
I know the resolution that you have and all of the different projects that the Coalition has taken are available on your website. For the audience, why don't you let people know where they can go for more information?
The Coalition's website is healthyschoolfood.org. And if you want to read the resolution, go to the bottom of the About Us page and you'll see some links there for it.
And I know there's a lot of other resources available there as well. Can you give more details about the resources that the Coalition for Healthy School Food has?
Sure. First of all, we have something called Wellness Wake-Up Call. It's written by 3 registered dietitians. It runs on a 3-year cycle, and this is nutrition education in the form of easy-to-digest sound bites read over the loudspeaker each morning. Or if there is no PA announcements, a teacher could read them in the class. And so there's a short message each day. It doesn't take more than 10 to 20 seconds at the most. And then copies of these messages plus a recipe go home with the students each month. And we ask the parents to review it. That way the parents learn it also. And of course, I think everyone knows that spending time with your children cooking and growing food in gardens is the best way to get children to eat healthier. And so they can make these recipes together. So that's a great resource. It can also be used in many other ways, not just over the PA system. Another resource is called Feel Good Food Cards, and these are photos of food plus the name of the food on the front of the card, and on the back, 5 interesting facts, plus 2 more pictures one, how it looks when it's growing, and another picture that's something closer up or that food used in a recipe. And this is sold by PDF. It comes in a PDF document, and schools can choose to print them off if they would like. And that's a very powerful resource, and it comes with instructions of many different ways to use it. So for example, some schools display the pictures of what's on their lunch menu that day. And we have foods in all the plant food categories. So fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. And we also have another resource called, well, it's a cooking curriculum for a family and consumer sciences class, or what some of us might remember as home economics. But it's a cooking curriculum for middle school, and that is on our website under resources. It's free. You can just go there and download it. And we also have a curriculum. We are in the process of rewriting it, but it's called Food UnEarthed, Uncovering the Truth About Food. And it teaches children to be critical thinkers. It's inquiry-based, and that's a really great curriculum. We currently teach it to 350 students every week in New York City. And every week the students also get a snack to go along with the curriculum. So they get exposed to a lot of different foods they might not get at home. And this piques their curiosity in food, and these kids are going home with a message to their parents, and we're hearing a lot of stories about positive changes at home. And it makes the kids more likely to eat the healthier food on the menu in the lunchroom as well. So that's a great resource.
So I encourage everyone to visit the site to understand the projects that are being done and read a lot of the case studies that are there, and also see some of the testimonials. I know you've done a lot. We'll share those more throughout the summit. And we have a resources page within the summit website. So you'll see a resources tab at the top, and we'll have resources from the Coalition for Healthy School Food, from PlantPure, as well as from a number of the other organizations that are represented on the summit. So this is going to be a very, hopefully, an informative and motivational and inspirational summit for people. That's our goal here.
Yes, and we want to see more people doing this work, and hopefully through all the information gained in this summit, people will gain the knowledge that they need to start doing this work themselves. And we will be there to help them as well.